The city park buzzed with the usual afternoon life. Dogs chasing frisbees, laughter echoing through the trees, and the faint sound of a street violinist in the distance. Ethan Brooks, CEO of a global tech empire, sat stiffly on a bench, watching his little daughter Lila toddle around the playground. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, expensive watch glinting under the sunlight, but there was something hollow in his eyes. Since his wife's death 2 years ago, Ethan lived by his calendar, not his heart. The only moments that broke his routine were these brief afternoons with Lila, moments he rarely knew how to handle. Today, though, something felt different. As he scrolled through endless emails, Ethan heard a soft laugh, light, tender, familiar. He looked up and saw Lila sitting cross-legged in the grass beside a woman he didn't recognize. The woman wore a faded gray cardigan and jeans that had seen better days. A strand of hair fell loose across her cheek as she smiled at Lila, listening intently to the little girl's stories about her doll. Ethan frowned. He was protective of his daughter, too protective, perhaps. Pocketing his phone, he stood and walked toward them. "Sweetheart," he called, his voice calm but firm. "You shouldn't bother people, okay?" Lila looked up, giggling. "But Daddy, she knows Mommy." The woman's head turned at that, and Ethan froze mid-step. Her eyes, deep brown, gentle, with a sadness that felt familiar, met his. She rose slowly, brushing grass off her knees. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "She just came over to say hi. I didn't mean to intrude." Ethan's chest tightened. Something about her voice struck him. Low, kind, the kind of tone that soothed pain. "Do you know my wife?" he asked carefully. The woman hesitated, then gave a small, almost nostalgic smile. "Yes, I used to be her nurse, in the oncology ward." Ethan's breath hitched. The park noise faded into silence. He stared, his jaw tightening. "That's not possible. My wife, He couldn't finish. The woman nodded gently. "I was there, Mr. Brooks. I held her hand when she couldn't sleep. She talked about you every night. She said you were working hard because you didn't know how to watch her fade." Ethan's throat burned. Memories crashed back. Nights in hospital corridors, signing forms with shaking hands, watching monitors blink slower and slower. And all this time, this woman, she had been there. "What's your name?" he managed to ask. "Nora," she replied quietly. "Nora Hayes." Ethan blinked, trying to remember. His wife had mentioned a nurse once. "Nora, the one who sings to me when the pain gets bad." His eyes softened with dawning recognition. "You were the one who sang to her," he whispered. Nora smiled faintly. She liked the lullabies, said it made her feel at home. Lila tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy, she's really nice," she said. Mommy smiled a lot. Ethan looked down at his daughter, his late wife's same bright eyes, and then back at Nora. There was something about her presence, calm, healing, like she had carried a piece of his wife's light that day she died, and never let it go. The next morning, the sky was pale blue, quiet, still, almost waiting for something. Ethan found himself driving back to that same park, though he couldn't explain why. He told himself it was for Lila, that she wanted to play again. But deep down, he knew it was for Nora. She was there, sitting alone on the same bench, feeding a few pigeons crumbs from a small paper bag. Her cardigan looked even more worn today, her shoes scuffed, but her eyes were as gentle as before. Ethan approached slowly, Lila skipping ahead. "Miss Nora," Lila called happily. "Daddy said we can play again." Nora turned, smiling in surprise. "Oh, you came back." Ethan nodded, clearing his throat. "We wanted to thank you for yesterday." Nora shook her head softly. "You don't need to thank me, Mr. Brooks. I should thank you." Seeing her, she glanced at Lila. "It reminded me of your wife's courage. She was strong, even when she was scared." Ethan sat down beside her, his expression unreadable for a long moment. Then he said, "After she died, I threw myself into work. It was easier than remembering. I never thought I'd meet someone who'd known her, who'd been there." Nora looked down at her hands. "I was there until the very end. She made me promise one thing." Ethan turned sharply. "What promise?" She said, "Tell him not to live like a ghost when I'm gone." The words hit him like a blow. His shoulders trembled. For the first time in years, he felt the grief he had buried break through his cold exterior. Nora's eyes glistened, but she smiled softly. She wanted you to smile again, Mr. Brooks, to live for your daughter. Ethan rubbed his temple, voice low. I've failed at that. Nora reached into her worn bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I think she'd disagree. Inside was a small drawing, childlike, colored with faded crayon. It was of his wife holding a little girl. She drew this before she passed, Nora said. She wanted you to give it to Lila when she was old enough to understand. Ethan stared at the paper, his wife's shaky handwriting still visible in the corner. So you'll never forget how much she was loved. His throat closed. When he finally looked up, there were tears in his eyes. Where are you staying, Nora? He asked quietly. She hesitated, embarrassed. A women's shelter near the train station. I'm fine, really. He shook his head. You're not fine. You cared for my wife when I couldn't. You gave her peace. And I let you walk away unnoticed. Nora blinked, startled. Ethan took out his phone. My company funds a community clinic. I want you to run the patient care program. Full salary, housing included. It's yours if you'll take it. Nora gasped softly. Mr. Brooks, I can't. He smiled faintly. You can. And it's Ethan. Lila ran up, holding a daisy crown. Miss Nora, this is for you. Mommy says you make people smile. Nora knelt, tears filling her eyes as she took the flowers. Thank you, sweetheart. Ethan watched them, his daughter's laughter mixing with the soft sound of the wind. And for the first time in years, something inside him shifted. His wife was gone, but her love, it was still here, in his daughter, in Nora, in the second chance he never expected to find.